He was freed. He was again convicted and incarcerated, double jeopardy. And so Betty Friedan and I came to Canada and stood on the steps. I don't remember if it was in Toronto or Montreal. Do you remember what that was? I think it was Montreal, the early 70s. I remember afterwards we're at a reception and she was drinking Manhattans, I was drinking Manhattans. She says, "Why is it that I can't get a man to go to bed with me unless I can get him drunk first?" I didn't have a second Manhattan. She's a wonderful woman. Steve Allen, a dear friend. Steve Allen is really wonderful. I published 15 of his books. He was one of the leaders of the humanist movement in the United States. He helped dedicate our Center for Inquiry in 1996. He died a tragic death. He was driving along and a man came out of a driveway and banged into him. And the man gets out and he says, "Oh, Steve Allen, can I get your autograph?" And Steve says, "That's the damnedest way to get an autograph." In any case, he went home and died that night. And he was working on the last manuscript. What was that, the Barbarians at the Gate? The Bulgarians at the Gate. Bulgarians at the Gate, yeah. This is Carl Sagan, what a loss in the early 60s. We celebrated his birthday at the New York Academy New York Academy of Science at that meeting.
His wife,
Ann Drinnan was there. This is Francis Crick. Yes, Francis Crick, the great discoverer, a dear friend of mine of the DNA. And John Watson also, but you know, he's put his foot in his mouth, unfortunately, by his remarks. This is Richard Dawkins now, who has led a tremendous movement in the world because he maintains that God is a delusion. That's E.O. Wilson, who was one of the key members of our Center for Inquiry, a humanist laureate among others, and has made enormous contributions. Dan Dennett, he went to China with us, and we had a great time for a week traveling up and down. Now, what river was that? I think it was the Yangtze River. Okay. And Ann Drinnan, the wife of Carl Sagan. Now, put the next one. Let me ask if they know who he is.
Okay.
Okay. You get the slide, yeah. Now, here's a great Canadian who is a great humanist. Who is he? Who is he? Brock Chisholm.
Oh,
Yes, he was one of the key people in the founding of the United Nations. The three founders of the United Nations, Sir Julian Huxley was the Secretary General, Lloyd Boyd, or the World Food Organization, and Brock Chisholm, the World Health Organization. And incidentally, the Center for Inquiry does have non-governmental organization, as a non-governmental organization, consultative status at the UN, and we maintain a mission at the UN. And we're welcomed. Even the American delegation voted to admit us. They probably didn't know who they were voting for. We're very pleased at that. And incidentally, we want, if we can, to get one or two Canadians to volunteer to be on that UN mission. The Center for Inquiry is not an American organization. It's a world organization. And the two great Canadians, Jim Alcock, great skeptic, and Barry Beierstein, who recently died, have been involved from the very start in our activities. So Justin, if you can take the names of any people who would like to volunteer, we read papers at the UN, and we partake of their meetings. And when something important is up, it would be wonderful if someone from Canada could come to New York for that. We also have representatives in Vienna, Paris, and Geneva. Henry Morgenthaler, my dear friend, how much I cherish what he's done. In 1969, we were on a boat opposite Pittsburgh, the lake, at a humanist meeting, and he said, "You know, I perform abortions in Montreal. I want to tell you that because I have begun to campaign for a woman's right to choose early." I said, "That's wonderful. You want to do an article?" He says, "I dare not." I said, "Well, we'll do it anonymously." So he published this article. At that time, he was a doctor in Montreal. And the Montreal newspapers picked it up because he talked about Montreal. And who is this man? Who is this man? Eventually, he came out of the closet, and of course, he suffered for a few years persecution, but now is one of the top 100 Canadians of all time because of his great contributions to the defense of a woman's right to choose. And who is this? Margaret Atwood. She's just been elected to the International Academy of Humanism. We're very pleased to have her. Well, let's move on to the next. So that is a brief history, and I've only touched the surface. 60% of American scientists are secularists, atheists, agnostics, free thinkers, and 93% of the National Academy of Sciences fit that category. So we ought to be proud of the fact that we represent a dissenting point of view, that we have a noble tradition traceable back to Greece and Rome, through the Renaissance, the development of modern science, the Enlightenment, the great battle for democracy, and for liberation of women and gays and disadvantaged people in our society. This is an heroic struggle. And humanism, secular humanism, scientific rationalism has been on that frontier. Now the question is often asked, what is secularism? I think you advertised this. I forgot. I didn't know what I was going to talk about. I sent you a name, so I better say something about it. It's the new secularism, the agenda for the future. Yes, that has become the great battleground. And you were telling me, Nathan, who is coming all out against secularism?
Oh, Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich has now decided he's going to come out against secularism.
Documentary.
In a new documentary. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
You got to put it up there? Okay.
It's been
All right. All right. Newt Gingrich, thank you very much. Thank you. Wow, how thoughtful. That's not a Christian act, that's a humanist act. And Pope Benedict. And who's the name on this TV show? I keep forgetting his name. O'Reilly. Okay. I've been practically on all the shows. That he invited me to be on the show, and he wanted to know if I'd talk about the theory of evolution. And I was talking to the producer. I said, yes, but I also want to talk about the theory of gravitation. I'll get back to you. I don't know what to talk about. He never got back to me. What do you mean by secularism? First, separation of church and state. We have a tremendous battle worldwide, not only among the 57 Islamic countries, among that set of primitive provinces further south of the border, where President Bush has been attempting to bridge the separation of church and state with faith-based charities, and everywhere, even here in Ontario, separation of church and state. So that's our first frontier. Now, I want to point out that 93 countries on the planet have some provision for a separation of church and state. So secularism at that time, secularism in that sense